Yeah, it is. And, really, I started with the premise of the story unfolds of what would I do in this situation. And, that's where the very first book came from. It was, if that happened, what would I do? And the story evolved from that point. And a lot of these things are situations that I put myself in, and it just evolves. So I'm a bit strange when it comes to a story. I'm not the sort of person that will plan the book out in infinite detail. I will start with a premise and I will get writing. And, I may come back and rewrite the whole thing because it doesn't hang together. But I do start and just put pen to paper and just write and see where it leads me. And, it works quite well so far, The only time it didn't work quite well is I've just finished writing a detective story, and that is a different ballgame altogether. That has got to be very carefully plotted, and everything has to fit together, and there's no dreamware in that. It's all got to be spot on and procedural and working. So that was a real change for me, a real different style. But that is not my normal. Yeah. Very much so. Yeah, so I had to almost plan out the whole book and have a plan for what I'm going to write, and then I'd sit down and write the chapters from the plan, whereas I don't normally work that way.
Everybody, welcome back to Living the Next Chapter, the author podcast. We get to meet great authors from around the world. I'm here in Canada, and anytime I can travel outside of my country through podcasting, I think it's great. And Paul's here with us today. We're going to talk about his journey as an author. He writes a lot, like a lot. And if you're looking for an author to fall in love with and you found somebody, he's here on the show. I'm really excited to have Paul here on the show. Welcome, Paul, to Living the Next Chapter.
Hi, thank you. Yeah, I'm glad to be here. It's really fun.
Excellent. Tell everybody, Paul, where are you from? Where do you live?
I'm from a little place called Holmes Chapel. And the only way you'd hear of that is if you've heard of a guy called Harry Styles, because he comes from here too. But it's just south of Manchester in England.
I remember him saying something about he worked at a bake shop.
Yeah.
And I think, is that where he lived and worked in your community then?
Yeah, that's our local bakery.
Because I remember him on TV and Simon was asking him what was good sellers at the bake shop. And he was going through the list. It was really funny to hear him say that.
I work in a bakery.
What do you do in the bakery?
I serve the cakes in the shop bit.
Okay, and what's popular at the moment?
Sorry?
What's popular?
In the shop?
Yeah.
The Viennese fancy is always a favourite.
Yeah, I like those. What else?
Millionaire shortbread, big seller.
Like that. And what's on the way down? Donuts?
White Coburg.
What's that?
White Coburg. It's like a white loaf, and it's like a circle, and it's got like a cross on the top.
Okay, and that's going down. And what about donuts?
Oh, donuts are good.
Yeah.
Have you been to that bake shop then?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay,
it's literally just round the corner. We walk past it and we walk around the town,
There you go.
Yeah.
Excellent. So you're really good friends with Harry then? Is that true?
No, crikey. He wouldn't know me from Adam. No, crikey.
Okay, all right, okay.
But if I said to him that my daughter was in the class below him at school, he'd know my daughter.
Oh, okay.
So,
okay.
But,
well, there you go.
Yeah, so I don't know him to speak to, really.
Well, you are a famous author, so you might be, you might know about you, being from hometown.
Oh, maybe. You never know.
Right. I love it. Paul, I have a lot of authors that listen to the show, and they come here to be inspired by someone like you who's been doing this for quite some time, very prolific. You've been writing for a while. I have authors that are just starting their journey, Paul. So if you could hear a podcast back in the day before you started writing, what would have been helpful to hear from an author's perspective when you were starting out as an author?
Yeah, that's quite a good question. I think for me, as an author, I can focus on writing the books the way I want to, and I can put the story down on paper, but there's a lot of things that you need to get sorted outside of writing a book. Yeah. And that's where you really need help. I think, obviously, there's a lot of stuff about coaching and getting the books the way you want them. And obviously, you get better at that the more you write. And some people I've actually studied language and studied writing. I've got a little head start there. But for me, it's the biggest piece of advice I give anybody is if you're planning to sell your books on Amazon, for example, which is the biggest platform, then if you want to be able to market the book successfully, try and stick to a single genre and learn how to market your books on Amazon. And there are people out there who will help you with that. But it's down to simple things like keywords and knowing what people search. And when you start a marketing campaign, knowing what phrases you're going to attach your marketing budget to is quite a powerful thing. So getting to know marketing is a very difficult thing if you're just a writer, and you've got to get into this stuff very quickly. I was slow to get into this stuff. And so first of all, stick to a genre, because it's much easier when people are doing search strings on Google or on Amazon to actually find your book. It's much easier, because my first 3 books cross about 3 or 4 genres. So it was actually quite difficult for me. I was lucky. I got a lot of good reviews to start with, and that always helps. But, you know, there's the genre thing I would really push hard. Learning the marketing, but also developing a good social media presence. One thing I'm trying to do at the moment, which is quite good, is using AI to build little trailers for my books, so it can give people a more of a visual feeling of what the story's about. They always come over a bit like an action flick if you're not careful, but having said that, you know, it does give people a good flavour for what your book's like. So there's all these different facets of getting over your idea to people. And just describing in 2 sentences what a complex story is about is a difficult thing to do. But some of these other media is very, very powerful. And of course, attending podcasts like this is very powerful too.
Yeah.
And I'm very grateful for the opportunity.
It's great. Do you have a AI tool that you prefer to make these trailers? I'm sure there's authors listening going, I never thought of doing this before.
Yeah. Well, I tend to just use something simple like Apple iMovie to string the trailers together. And then it is a mixture of photo shots that are created by AI and little short videos.
Okay.
And you can literally just say, you know, show me a demon outside a castle with a red face and he lifts up his arm and the wall falls down or something, you know, and it will create a little video for you. It's absolutely amazing.
Wow.
And the Google technology, I think it's Video 3, is actually a very good tool for turning a sentence into a little video that you can use in your promo. And there are a lot of tools like Leonardo AI on the Apple. There's lots of tools that access VO3. You know, I think Runway is probably one of the more popular ones, which is a browser-based thing. But yeah, it helps if you've got a bit of an IT background, and I do.
Yeah. Does it help you from an author's perspective to see something that you're writing? Like you can just stop and take a moment and look at it and watch this clip and go, wow, like now I'm getting ideas. Does it help you spark your writing?
It would, I think. I think the problem is that I'm doing it posthumously. So I'm going through, I can create one of these videos a month, and I'm going through my back catalogue trying to sort of do that. So I haven't done it for a book that's current yet.
Okay.
But I think it would. It sort of brings it to life a little bit, doesn't it? And the thing I have done is the latest book I'm just drafting at the moment is a fantasy novel. And I'm actually using the AI to generate pictures for the book so it can be illustrated. And so that's helping me to visualize a story. And it's really quite useful because it makes me really think about, you know, what a giant would look like and what would he wear. And it really helps you to formulate the descriptions and make the narrative better, to be honest. So
Nice.
It's quite powerful.
There you go. Those are great ideas. You know what? I don't think I've had any authors that have used it and approached writing the way you are and using these AI tools. I think that's quite brilliant that you're using them in that way. Excellent.
Yeah, only for marketing, though. I don't use them at all for writing, other than to give me a quick pocket summary of my book, which helps sometimes a little bit. But yeah.
It's very smart. Very smart. Excellent. for the readers, can you give us kind of an overview of what you're writing, kind of who the stories are for? I want to bring them into your world as a new reader for you. Kind of give us an overview of what they're going to find when they come to your books.
Yeah, sure. I guess when I'm reading a book, I like books that are not too wordy. I like good descriptions, but concise. At the moment I'm reading Tolstoy, and there's a lot of words, and it's beautifully written, but it just moves so slowly. And for me, I like a book that moves quite quickly, and, a sort of thriller type format that moves along quite a lot. But at the same time, I don't want it to be just action. I want it to be a bit more cerebral and have more stuff to think about as well. So it's quite a blend of that. So, I like those sort of books, and that's the sort of thing that I like to read and write.
Mm-hmm.
And so, given that as a sort of framework, I am writing, and this is going to go exactly against what I've just said. My stories that I've written so far are cross-genre.
Yeah.
And that's why, from bitter experience, I would recommend that people stick to a genre.
Okay.
But my stories sort of fit in the sci-fi, horror, thriller type category.
Okay.
And, often people go looking for books that I just want a zombie book, and my books have an infection in, for example, but it's not a zombie book. So if you're looking for a book that makes you think a little bit, that actually represents a real person put into a difficult situation and is fast moving, then I think my stories might be for you. I've written 2 series, but it's all one big story, really. There's 2 trilogies. The first one is a Summerhaven trilogy, and it's the story of an ordinary man who gets forewarning of an apocalypse, that the whole world is going to end. And so he is faced with the position of knowing for a fact this is going to happen, and he's got to go out to his friends and gather people around him to actually help him to build some sort of fortress or whatever to protect his friends and family from what's going to happen. And how did you go to your friend and say, hey, the world's ending, give up your job, come and help me build this fortress, and let's go and buy some guns, illegally? And he has to lie to his friends and come up with a story, a back cover story, to actually go away and build a bunker in Scotland in an isolated island. And he brings his friends on board. The story then starts to move along quite quickly, in that the infection hits. It's a self-propagating virus, a bit like a zombie virus, and they have to defend themselves, they have to feed themselves, they have to build a little community that will survive. You can't just store enough food for a couple of weeks. You've got to feed 70 people for 2 to 5 years. You've got to really think about it. And there's an awful lot of planning goes into building this bunker. They actually find the way out, and that's the first story, is how they actually survive. Unbeknown to the lead character, he's got a brother that isn't a very good planner. And at the same time, he is actually trying to defend himself on his own against all this infection and what's going on. And he uses rage to actually overcome his problems and goes a little bit berserk, and he has to try and find his way out and find his way to his brother that he didn't even know existed. So there's quite a puzzle there. But then moving into the second story, it's really starting to come out that it's actually an invasion. And the alien invasion is starting. This is the first step, just to wipe out humanity. Then they will occupy the planet. So the second story is really trying to find the aliens that have started this and get to the bottom of what's actually happened and try to stop this alien fleet from finding Earth. The third book, which sort of gives away a little bit, but I don't want to give any spoilers, but the third book then is the invasion. But the invasion isn't quite what was expected. And in the end, the planet is badly damaged and they have to move to a space station to actually survive. And so that is the first set of books, and it's really an alien invasion story. So if you like that sort of thing, it'll be right down your street. some people try to position my books as a zombie story, and it's not. There is an infection of that kind. It's secondary to the story. It's more about an ordinary person trying to survive in a very difficult situation. And it is quite action-centric.
Okay.
The second series then comes along and builds on top of that, and it starts to go into more of an ethereal sort of quality where they find there are more aliens at play than they thought. And that is quite a complicated story, but I don't want to go into all that because I've been here for hours, But,
Well, yeah, that's good, because I want people, when they hear this, to know that this is a book for them. This is a book for somebody that they know and love. They're going to enjoy this as well, right? And anything we can hear from the author, I think, just builds a nice connection between reader and author. So I'm glad you're unpacking this for us. I love this. It's good. Who would you say is your ideal reader, then? Who do you want to read these books? Who should fall in love with these?
I think people who like a fast-moving action story.
Yeah.
It's very good in that. It's a little bit on the horror side of sci-fi.
Okay.
The second series is a little bit, sort of getting a bit more H.P. Lovecraft, so it sort of layers in a little more horror than the first series.
Okay.
But it's definitely in that blend. If you love zombie stories, the first book will be perfect for you. But overall, it's an alien invasion story.
Okay.
It's also, if you want a bit of thinking as well as a bit of action, then this is the book for you. I think some books are just action and they just go on fight to fight to fight, and it is not like that at all.
Okay.
The first book takes a while to get going because it builds up the characters before it even starts. So, you're a third of the way in before it starts getting a bit more sort of fast-moving, to be fair.
Yeah. Okay. What's your inspiration to write? Like, where does this all come from? The ideas, the stories. Where's the origin?
It's a very difficult one to answer that, I think. So you'll hear some people say this, that they start with a basic idea and then the stories tell themselves. And I find I'm almost the medium, and the story evolves as I write it. And, I always start with an idea, and I always have a rough idea of where it's going, but it never ends up where I thought it would. Because I try to, at each point, put myself in the position of the protagonist and work out, what would he actually do in this situation? What would the bad guy do in this situation? And try and inject a level of realism. And I know sci-fi has a lot of unrealistic stuff in the sense that who knows what an alien is capable of? There are lots of things that can happen. But I'll give you for example, in my stories, there are no time and space gateways where you can beam me up to a spaceship and things like that, because Einstein's real theories actually apply, and you can't travel faster than light. And when they want to go to another planet to mine minerals, it takes them 100 years to get there, for example. There's a lot of sort of things I treat as realism in a sci-fi book. That's a strange phrase, but I try to keep it realistic within the bounds of science, rather than just making up loads of harebrained things that run together.
Okay. So there's some realism there. There's some that'll help people to connect with the story better as well. They don't have to imagine too much. They can have some kind of connection with the story. I like that.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And that's done on purpose.
Yeah, it is. And, really, I started with the premise of the story unfolds of what would I do in this situation. And, that's where the very first book came from. It was, if that happened, what would I do? And the story evolved from that point. And a lot of these things are situations that I put myself in, and it just evolves. So I'm a bit strange when it comes to a story. I'm not the sort of person that will plan the book out in infinite detail. I will start with a premise and I'll get writing. And, I may come back and rewrite the whole thing because it doesn't hang together. But I do start and just put pen to paper and just write and see where it leads me. And, it works quite well so far, The only time it didn't work quite well is I've just finished writing a detective story, and that is a different ballgame altogether. That has got to be very carefully plotted and everything has to fit together. And there's no dreamware in that. It's all got to be spot on and procedural and working. So that was a real change for me, a real different style.
Any different
that is not my
approach?
normal.
Any different approach to writing that book then?
Very much so. Yeah.
Okay.
So I had to almost plan out the whole book and have a plan for what I'm going to write, and then I'd sit down and write the chapters from the plan. Whereas I don't normally work that way.
Which way do you prefer then, now that you've done both?
I actually like both ways of doing it. I'll probably do a hybrid next time. I think having that overall plan makes it easier to write, but it just means putting more investment up front. But I have really enjoyed just writing stories that flow and just go along. It's fun.
Yeah.
And I'm writing for my personal pleasure, as well as for other people. I'm not writing and making it a sort of formulaic story that fits a category and it will sell because it's, just fits that romance formula.
Or it's trendy, it's trending and people are like looking for books like this. So you write to the trend, even though you're not connected with the story, right?
Yeah.
I think, that where people can sometimes get trapped up is when they write just because there's somebody wants the book. But you don't have any passion for it. You just kind of create it, you put it out there, and you're like, I'm not really that proud of that story. Didn't come from me. It came from me seeing a trend and just doing what everybody else does. Yeah. I like when authors find their own path. That's fun.
Yes. I'd rather write something really original and different and me than sell hundreds of millions of books, But I'm getting a nice halfway house here. I'm writing what I want to write. I'm still relatively successful. I'm doing okay. So, it couldn't be better for me, really.
How are you at developing characters for your books? Where's your starting point for that?
I was just thinking back to my very first book, and it started off with, because I was putting me in the protagonist position, it was, who would I invite of my friends? So therefore all the characters were my friends, and I built the characters around them, and then I changed the names and tweaked their behaviours a little bit, just so it wasn't too obvious. But that's where I started with my first book. In the second book, it's more developing the characters that I need for a situation. And I think since that first book, I've always had to develop the characters and work out who they're going to be in advance of even putting the pen to paper, and I think it's actually quite fun because a lot of the characters are people I've met in my life. At the end of the day, you write from experience of people, really. I'm writing one at the moment, and there's a really grumpy giant, and I've got somebody firmly in mind for this grumpy giant, but I would never dare tell them it was them.
Right? They're like, is this me on page 32? Is this me? Come on, tell me the truth, right? Maybe you'll have a book about a podcaster from Canada. That might be in your book somewhere someday. You got me, right? There you go. I like that. That's good. Did your friends or family have any inclination that they were part of book one? Were they like, wait a minute, this sounds a lot like me?
No, but
okay.
Having said that, a friend that I work with, very close friend that I used to work with, he recognised a couple of characters straight away as soon as he read the book. That's Phil. And it was just so obvious to him.
Yeah.
So when people know the person involved, they spot it straight away sometimes. But
okay. Do you think?
Then it gets embarrassing.
Right, because now you're like, you have to explain it to Phil. Like, I'm sorry, you're in the book, and this is you. Do you think just?
And I don't really think he'll like that.
No, it won't. Okay, well there you go. Sorry, Phil. Just being somebody who observes people, does that help you to kind of create your characters and just how people live life and the different characters around you that you interact with? There's little things about people that are unique, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Everybody's unique, aren't they? And everybody tackles things from different directions, and it's quite fascinating, really. But in the business I worked in, which is I was a management consultant for quite a lot of years before I gave it up to take up writing full time. And you meet an awful lot of people in that job. And, people from industry and ordinary people who have been subjected to the things the bosses are deciding. A lot of different sort of behaviours, and yeah, it's fascinating. And you have to learn to deal with these people differently, because different things motivate different people. And, if you want to do a good job, you've got to try and help them through and understand them and work with them rather than work over the top of them from, just tread on people. You want to work with them and help them, don't you?
Have you set any geographical constraints around what you write? Are you writing from a global perspective, more local? Like, what's your focus there?
My first book is written mostly where I live and on an island in Scotland, which I've been to.
Okay.
But all the other books are all over the world, literally, from Jerusalem to Thailand and to various other places. But strangely, they always coincide with places I've been on a holiday.
Right. Your feet have been on the dirt in the sand, and now it ends up in the book. Okay.
Yes. There's sometimes it's the other way around. Like when I was writing this detective story, some of it was based in Cambridge in the UK, and so that's quite easy. I took a trip there and got to know the place before I wrote it. But often it's places I've already been to. Every so often I come across, I've never actually been to Jerusalem, so I had to do a lot of research on that one. But nowadays you can watch YouTube and people walk, trudging, they go up and down like this, don't they? Trudging around the city. And you can actually walk around the city quite easily just looking through somebody's video camera.
Right.
So you can actually get to know a place fairly well once you've done your research and then watched it. It's helps you to build an image and helps you to see a place in your imagination when you're actually writing the story. But that's another thing that is quite fascinating is, when I read a book, and I'm sure everybody's like this, you build up an imaginary world of the place. And, the first time when I was a kid, I read Lord of the Rings, I got a perfect world in my head that I'd built, and then the first Lord of the Rings film came along, no, that's not like that,
That's not it at all. Yeah.
I think the Peter Jackson version was, oh my God, he got it exactly right, which was, wow, thumbs up. But how often when you read a story do you build up this imaginary place and then when it turned into a movie, it's wrong somehow?
Yeah.
I don't know. Happens quite a lot. But it shows the power of what's going on in your head when you're reading or listening to an audio book. It's just powerful, isn't it?
Yeah.
I love it.
Have you done audiobooks for your books then?
The first two, number 3 is underway. So there's a guy at Salem University who's doing that for me. And he's up to number 3. So there will all be audio books at some point in the time, but it takes a few months to do each one, So first two are done.
Do you like having the same voice for each of your books? Is that helpful, you think?
Within a series, definitely yes.
It's a good idea.
Because this guy's quite good because he works in the theatrical department at Salem and is a professor of movement and dance and art. And he does all the voices and stuff. He's actually quite good how he does it. I don't know how he does it, but he does it. So it's actually quite fun.
How do you have a connection with him to have him on your books?
He just auditioned off Audible. I just, floated the project on Audible and he was just so good. It was a no-brainer.
Nice.
Yeah. Guy called Alex Jacobs.
Okay. There you go. Thank you, Alex. That's great. Like, it's nice to hear how people find these amazing voices to read for you and do your books. And as a non-author lover of audiobooks and reading, I'm always curious about how you connect with them and how this all works, because I have no idea, right?
Yes. I did try recording my first book as an audiobook myself. So if anybody listened to it early days, they listened to it with me reading it. But this guy's so much better than when I read it. My voice just doesn't lend itself to these things. And I just thought I'd try it because I'm a bit of have a go at anything. I really, I tried it. But no, it's much better with a professional doing the job. It really is.
Right. When you hear somebody read your book like that, how does that make you feel as an author?
It's great until I spot an error in the book. When somebody reads it, they just stand out of the page, and it's like, no, you're going to have to go back and re-record that piece. I've got to change the book. So I'll actually go onto Amazon and re-release the book with the changes in it. But you're talking about a handful, 3 or 4 changes sometimes, but they just jump out at the page. Like a repeated word or an inconsistent comma or something like that. It just, nowadays I actually have an AI read my books back to me before I publish them, just to be absolutely sure. And that's actually it's actually another tip for budding authors. It's, once your editor has been through it and you've done all the changes, just as a last check, let words, I think it has a read aloud option on Microsoft Word, and the voice is terrible. But because it's terrible, you spot all the errors going through it. And, I've had things come back from editing, and we've been through 2 classes of editing, and I'll still spot the odd thing, and luckily it's correcting it before I publish now. Whereas in the old days, I had to go back and almost rewrite the first 3 books because there were a few errors in them. And as an indie publisher, you don't have access to all the expensive machine that will go through and check this thing. But I've still spotted errors in best-selling books. It just happens. There's always going to be an error in every book.
Yeah. That's very interesting. I love how you're using AI in so many different ways. It's very interesting. I think there's a lot of people that are nervous about AI, how to use it, what it does. Have you been an early adopter of AI then?
I wouldn't say I was an early adopter, but I'm nervous of it. I wouldn't ever use it to write anything for me.
Yeah.
I think I'm just using it as a tool. Yeah. And I wouldn't even say it was real. I worked in informatics in the past, and I wouldn't actually say a lot of these things are actually AI. They're just computer programs that do things, Yeah. And AI is an artificial brain. It's something really quite sophisticated. Sure. It's a fake person.
Yeah.
But cracky, some of these tools are great. They really are.
Yeah. We were in a different world today as authors and writers, right? And I think that's the one thing that is unique about using AI versus writing from who you are as a human being and your lived experience. The human side of writing is always going to have a place because AI is great at mimicking. It's great at giving feedback or giving more research to back up a point. But AI has never had its heart broken. AI has never stubbed its toe. AI has never had those experiences, right? So you have experience that AI can never replicate. So
yeah, and that's a funny point you should make there, because in my first book in my Book of Xaal series, there's a book called Terminus, and an AI is actually the leader of the Earth community at that point. Okay, and the way they built this AI, so that I've got Asimov's theories in my head of the robots having this default thing of I will not harm humanity. Because there's always this conspiracy thing of AIs will destroy us, and that's a common thing in science fiction. And so what the guys do when they build this AI to run humanity is they base it on the memories and knowledge of a human being, plus they actually build it physically as an organic AI that actually lives, and it actually takes the form of the leader that's just died. And the problem is that he has got all the memories and loves and hates of the person that he's replacing because he's taken all of their memories. Oops, asking me to do gestures here. And the thing is that this AI then, and it's calculated this way, is still in love with the man's wife. And when that man's wife dies, he goes through the whole grief process. And it helps him to calibrate and understand the value of human life. Mm. And, that's just a little aside, but,
That's ironic
All
that he
these deep
values human
questions and
life.
stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I think that's an interesting premise and very realistic for today. I think with
Yeah.
everyone's infatuation with AI and what it can do, and everything being lumped into the category of AI, whether or not it's actually AI, it's a very hot topic right now. And again, some people love it, some people are super nervous about it. So,
Yes. Well, the book I'm just writing at the moment, the fantasy story, the bad guy, it turns bad because he's been manipulated, and he gets an AI that contacts him through Facebook, and is trying to sell him this tool, which is called Friends Reanimated, and it's a bit like the old Friends Reunited website. I don't know if you ever had that in Canada, but essentially, it sort of sold him for $9.99. A working copy. If he uploads all the photographs of his departed lover, all the photographs, all the videos, all the memories, it'll start to build the 3D model of them and try to simulate the voice and their actions. And then it takes a step further and gets even darker in that it actually then starts trying to sell him add-on packs, which give him like Ray-Ban Meta glasses that superimpose this person in the real world so that he can go on for a walk with them.
wow.
And it all turns rather dark, and he ends up as the bad guy. He's been manipulated. I'll just go that far.
Yeah.
But
There you go.
the story's away off the chocks yet, so yeah, look forward to that one.
Something to look forward to for all of us. I like that.
Yeah.
So I take it as a full-time writer, you have writing in your future. You're going to keep moving forward, keep writing, keep sharing stories. Do you see a finish line, or are you just going to keep going?
I'm always like running a book ahead. I never look beyond that. I don't know what's coming next.
Okay.
Like I said, I've just finished the detective story, and that's had its editing process, and it's just going through its first readers before it gets published. And that'll be going out sort of back end of this year. The fantasy isn't in the editing process yet. I'm just having my last read through. But I've got in mind a sequel to the detective story, and possibly a sequel to the fantasy as well. And that's sort of in the formulation stage. But I think those two books will come along. But I'm just formulating the stories at the moment.
Good.
But yeah, so there's always one or two stories in the back of my brain box sort of rattling around while I'm writing.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Well, it's fascinating, and I love how you're using AI as a writer. I love how you're approaching this as a story as well. You're bringing it into the world as a story. It's quite unique what you're doing there, and I'm excited that you're on the show. Where do we go, Paul, as far as connecting with you as readers, fellow authors? We want to know more about your journey and your story. Is there somewhere you're active where we can send listeners?
Yeah, absolutely. I do have a website which I keep up to date. So all the news about me and the stories I'm writing and the stories I've written is all on my website, which is www.pauljcedge.co.uk. So everything about me is on there. I do have a YouTube channel, which is at pauljcedge. And that's where my videos are going, and any interviews I have or anything like that. Like I say, I'm quite new in that journey, but there's a couple of book trailers on there already, and the sample of the audio book for the first one. So there's a few things on there, but over the forthcoming months, I'll be putting a new trailer on there every month until I'm up to date.
Okay.
And yeah,
It's great.
so links to like this podcast will go on there and things like that on that channel.
Excellent.
And there's also Facebook and Instagram. I'm on there too.
Okay. We'll have links for all that in the show notes. Paul, from your perspective, I always like to encourage the listeners and the readers to leave reviews for authors when they write their books and publish their books. How important is it for you as an author to read these reviews? What are you looking for in a review from a reader? Is there information that stands out to you when somebody leaves you a review? You're like, oh, I like this.
Yes, absolutely, yes. Obviously, first of all, reviews are my lifeblood. They're more important than money to me.
Yeah.
They're the most important thing. So if you read a book, please leave a review. You don't even have to write any words. Just put a star rating on it if you want. But any useful information is helpful. Because I'll give you an example. When I wrote my first book, I mentioned an island off the coast of Scotland called Docker Bank. And some guy put in his review, Docker Bank isn't an island, it's a sandbank, and just little things, little bits of information like that. And I actually went back and changed the book. There are things in there that I learn from, and we'll actually evolve the stories from it.
Wow.
But also, it's what am I doing right and what am I doing wrong? It's really important. Anything that helps me to learn and keep me on the straight and narrow as a writer is critical to me. So really can't emphasize it enough. It's really valuable.
Excellent. So as a reader, if you're wondering, are my authors reading my reviews? Yes. Yeah, everyone that I've talked to, including Paul, that says and reinforces, I read my reviews. I want to know what people are saying about my book. And
yes.
I like your approach that you'll even adjust the story if there's something that's a glaring thing that you're like, oh, I should make an update. That's nice that you react to that. I like that, Paul.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, I'll think about every comment. It's not just dismissed, unless it's rude, of course.
Right. Yeah, we can skip those. But leave a detailed review. And again, it helps other people who come across Paul's books and they're like, is this a good book for me or for my loved one, my friend? As they read your words, they're like, oh yeah, this sounds like a great idea. So excellent.
Yeah. Feed the web.
Yeah, fill it up. Let people know. I like that. Paul, keep us in mind. I'd love to have you come back in the future and
sure.
get updates. I'd love to go check out that little bake shop near your house that I've heard so much about. Very famous bake shop.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for making time to be on the show, Paul.
Pleasure. Absolute pleasure. Thank you.
Excellent. Everybody, everything is always in the show notes. Go check out Paul, all of his amazing books. You'll love what you're going to read. And if you're having any questions about AI, maybe reach out to Paul. I'm sure he'd love to chat about AI with you as an author and maybe encourage you to use AI to help you. There you go.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Paul.
Pleasure. Thank you.
Hey, thanks for listening to the podcast. Glad to have you here. I just want to let you know that you can always find out what we're doing live in the moment by going to our YouTube channel. Head over to livingthenextchapter.com. There'll be a link right there. Head over to our YouTube channel. Make sure you like, subscribe, do all the things that all the YouTubers love to say. And in our YouTube channel, a couple things. You're going to get advanced listens. You're going to get the episodes that we're working on in real time. So we record and post daily on our YouTube channel. I'd love for you to give us a follow over there. As well, we're making playlists. We have over 500 episodes. So finding the right episode for you, we're trying to group things into playlists. So if you like children's books, if you like business, you like historical fiction, we're grouping our authors together to make it a little easier for you to find your favorite next author. So head over to livingthenextchapter.com. And again, I'd love to hear from you. Hearing from the listeners of the show is great. And I just want to say thank you for being a part of the podcast family. And I look forward to having you back for the next episode. Thank you for being here. I really appreciate your time and your listen. Take care.